You receive a salary, you pay tax on that, you can still innovate, you think, and it doesn't prevent you, for example, to innovate.
Xavier, thank you very much for joining Dukascopy TV today. It's an absolute pleasure, and we've got a really interesting topic to dive into today about taxation of robots. Now, do you consider taxation of robots to be a viable option going forward?
I think so. I think at least this is something we should consider now. Maybe we would never need to implement it, but at least we have to think about it. Because we can see that with the artificial intelligence, some people are saying that a lot of jobs could disappear, and pretty soon. So if this job disappear, then the salaries will disappear. We won't have the tax on salaries. We won't have enough money for the social security. So one idea would be to levy the tax on robots to compensate for this loss.
So is that going through the companies? You would have to tax through the companies who are using robots?
Yeah, that's a key question. Exactly, is really how to implement it.
Exactly.
And this is difficult. Actually, there are various options. So one idea, among others, would be to say the company spare the salary that it would normally pay for the employee. So maybe then we could compute a sort of hypothetical salary. So that would be then the company. So it would be in fact a tax on this case on the use of robots. But in the future we could even consider also the value-added tax, because the robots, if it becomes more and more independent, it can become like an entrepreneur itself, if I may call it, and then we could levy also the value-added tax. So that's two options, but there are others as well.
So herein lies the difficulty, and how do you define a robot with technology changing so much as well? How would you, at this present moment in time, define a robot?
And this is one of the main criticism that has been made, to say, but you cannot define it. But I think it's possible. This is something we have to carefully consider. For example, the European Union is already thinking to levy, maybe not a tax, but a liability, a civil liability for robots. So they are really trying to define them. And one idea would be to say it's artificial intelligence, but with autonomy. So you should consider that today a robot can learn, it can change its behavior, it can grow. It can even repair another robot, for example. So you can see more and more an autonomy, and this would be some kind of definition, actually.
So again, another difficult part of this is if you're putting pressure on companies who are using robots and taxating them, is that going to hamper innovation and development?
So exactly, that's another criticism we have to consider. I understand that, but you receive a salary, you pay tax on that. You can still innovate, you think, and it doesn't prevent you, for example, to innovate. Companies, they pay tax already, and they innovate. So of course, we have to make sure that this tax is not an additional tax which hamper innovation. It should be a tax which enters into the system and is designed in such a way that it doesn't prevent innovation. But I think this is quite possible, and we are used to that in the tax world.
Just finally, a final point. When do you envisage a time when this will come into effect? Do you think it's very soon, or it's going to be a long process?
No, I don't think it's very soon, and that's why we have to think now, because it takes a lot of time, especially this kind of tax. If you look at, for example, the tax on the financial transaction that they are discussing in the EU, they have been talking about that already since about 8 years, and it's only now that it's closely coming into effect. So I think a minimum of 5 years, maybe 10 years. And this is also something that should be dealt with maybe at the OECD level, at a more global level. I would not imagine that Switzerland, for example, alone would try to implement such a tax.
Xavier, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you. Yes.
And thank you for watching. And if you like this interview and would like to see more, be sure to head over to dukascopy.tv.